Hey folks, Will Brink here, Brinkstone.com, and today what I'm going to cover is bomb-proof coffee. Bomb-proof coffee is a recipe that I came up with for those that really want an exceptional cup of coffee that will give them the benefits of what the current coffee craze out there is of adding a whole bunch of fat to your coffee and the magical effects that are promised by that, and I cover that in another video. But I did have people asking me, well, what would you recommend for a good coffee, ingredients in that coffee formula that would give me those effects? That is, we're looking for improved cognitive effects and energy level and focus and health too. I mean, putting this stuff in your coffee should be overall net healthy effect, which I really not sure I can say for that other formula. So, after people asked me that, I worked on a formula. I've been putting things in my coffee for a while to back up a little bit, but I haven't really sat there and worked on a specific formula with doses and types and all that. So I sat down and did that, and then I had people use it, beta testers should we say, and so I could tweak it and all that, and now I can give it to you. So first we have to lay some ground rules as to what would go into such a formula. I mean, obviously, point one is it should have specific cognitive benefits, and it should have good research behind it. It shouldn't just be I sat on a Tibetan hill and they were drinking it and so I'm recommending this to you type stuff and shoddy science. It should have solid science behind it. Two, it should make sense. That is, I mean, you could put a lot of random things into a cup of coffee that may not really have any overlap or any synergy. And of course, the third issue is it should not impart any taste to the coffee. I mean, I can again think of a lot of things you could just dump into coffee, but it would ruin the taste of the coffee. So it should either not impart a taste or at least improve the taste. I mean, those are two things. But it should not degrade the taste and ruin the taste of your coffee. So that's kind of the ground rules here for what I would be looking to put into a formula. So the first ingredient, actually before I get to that, I'm going to say video one here is going to discuss what goes into it and why, what my reasoning is for it. I might also write up an article with the full data and all that behind it. But what goes into it and why, and part two will show you exactly how to make it, doses and all that. So you don't have to ask me after this video. So ingredient one is a bit of a no-brainer, but is actually, there's a catch to it, and that would be cocoa powder, of course. Now, chocolate, or i.e. cocoa powder, has been found to have a long list of benefits, both cognitively, physiologically. I won't go into all those benefits. Again, that's something you'll have to research, so I don't have to go into it. But cocoa powder and coffee, of course, are closely related plants, and there's a whole bunch of compounds in them that are synergistic and excellent for your health. Now, the trick, however, to cocoa powder, as most people don't realize, is that the vast majority of chocolate, or cocoa powder, I like to call it chocolate, but it's really cocoa powder, that is out there, and all the high-end bars you eat and all the powders you get are Dutch processed. They are alkali treated, and in that Dutch processing you lose most of the beneficial compounds, the phenolic compounds. There's a broad range of phenolic compounds, and again, I'm not going to go down the list of them. I might do that in the article, but the vast majority of cocoa powder that you eat has been Dutch processed, alkali treated. And why they do that is that it decreases the bitterness, and actually that's because those phenolic compounds are a little bit bitter. It decreases increases the pH, and makes it more easy to deal with and a little more soluble. So that's why they do it. And it's a very old process. The basic rule of thumb that you've probably read is the darker the chocolate, the higher the content of beneficial polyphenolic compounds, and that's true. But it ranges considerably. It's not as consistent as you might think. And they don't really, lightly alkalized chocolate has more beneficial compounds than heavily alkalized or Dutch processed, but it doesn't say on the package. So as a rule of thumb, you really have to search out those few products, the powders that will say not Dutch processed, not alkali treated. That is essential to get these phenolic compounds that have all these amazing health benefits. So that's a no-brainer, but there is that catch, and I will, in the next video, I will even recommend brands and all that. Ingredient 2, tyrosine. Tyrosine is a no-brainer, maybe one of the most underrated amino acids out there as far as cognitive benefits. Tyrosine is a precursor to a long list of important neurotransmitters, in particular some of the more stimulating neurotransmitters, epinephrine, and a few others. You'd have to again look that up, or I might cover that in my article. Again, the couple of tricks to it, however, is it's got to be taken in the appropriate dose. Most of the time when you see it listed in a supplement, it is nowhere near the dose needed. The dose needed is minimum multiple gram doses. Two, it needs to be taken on an empty stomach, or at least not with other protein. You can take it with carbohydrates, and you can probably take it with fat, and that's fine, which again, why it goes in the coffee. It imparts no taste to the coffee. But it cannot be taken with other proteins because it competes with other amino acids for uptake into the brain and so forth. Tyrosine is not a stimulant. Tyrosine is sort of the classic anti-stress nutrient. And that is to say, it does not drive those pathways. It doesn't increase the production of those neurotransmitters, or those hormones, but it does top off the levels, and it does prevent decrements in cognitive function under stress, and that's what studies show. And it's not something you feel as like a jittery stimulant, but it's really something you do notice as far as the smooth, clear thinking, extended smooth, clear thinking, because again, it does help with stress, and that has been mental stress specifically, has been studied by the NASA, was studied by MIT, has been studied by Naval Special Warfare. They did an interesting study in winter warfare training with SEALs, giving one group tyrosine and the other group, and so forth. And again, I will cover that in the article. I'm not going to cover it here. But it's a no-brainer, and it does not have any taste, and again, specifically in the right dose and so forth, you will notice it. Ingredient number 3, I think we're on 3, is going to come as a surprise to some people, but it shouldn't, and that is creatine. Now, if creatine comes as a surprise to you, you don't know creatine. As I have been pointing out in many articles and videos forever, that creatine has a wide range of health benefits, specifically to the brain. It is very neuroprotective. It improves cognitive function. There has been a number of studies showing it improves specific types of cognitive function, of which I will cover in a later article. It does not impart any taste to the coffee. And it is really a no-brainer, and people really need to get up to speed as to the variety of benefits of creatine specifically to the brain and the body, and its health benefits completely separate from any effects it may have on sports and what have you. As I like to say about creatine, it is one of the few supplements I would take if I never exercised a day in my life, and a lot of people are taking it these days for anti-aging and health benefits who don't exercise. Okay, so we have our chocolate, we have our tyrosine, we have our creatine. The next ingredient I add to it, and this is not as much for functional effect as you may think, which is coconut oil. Now, I also cover coconut oil in another video. Yeah, you're going to get a little bit of MCTs from the coconut oil and such, and there may be some benefits for that, certainly cognitively speaking, but understand that most of the claims that have been made for coconut oil are vastly exaggerated. The reason I put a little bit of coconut, and there's a small amount, we'll see in the next video, is mostly for the taste, and it does help with the get an emulsion effect with the chocolate. Again, cocoa powder has a lot of these phenolic compounds. They're fairly hydrophobic. That means they don't like water, which means they're going to just sit on the top of your coffee or whatever liquid you put them in, or sink to the bottom. And what I do, and I'll show you later on, is I put a little bit of coconut oil in there, and I use a whisker, a foam whisker to get like lattes and stuff, to get like an emulsion, which combines the coconut oil with the cocoa and a little bit of skim milk, and I'll show you that later. So those are the basic ingredients in what I call bomb-proof coffee, and they are all excellent for your health. They are excellent for cognition, for protecting your brain, neuroprotective as it would be said. And we go into video 2 again. Before you ask me any questions about, okay, well, how much and where do I put it and how do I add it and all that, I am going to go into the full process of making bomb-proof coffee. And I promise you, if you try it, you will be amazed at the basic effect that you get on mental clarity and energy, and of course other effects. And you're going to get some appetite suppression. So that's part 1. That's what's in bomb-proof coffee, and we will get into exactly how to make it in part 2. And I'll see you all on the brink.